What is up, dudes, lady dudes? Welcome back to Just Nuts. Today, we've got an OCG ban list, and it's a doozy. It's pretty big. I think that's kind of what we've been seeing in the OCG is like a lot of changes every new ban list, and they've been having a pretty steady format, same as us. So, can't really complain. I got my bucket hat on to cover up my terrible bed head because I have not been awake for long and I have not taken a shower yet today, but I will be soon, so don't worry about that. But yeah, let's just jump right into it. So we're going to start off with the forbidden cards. Nightmare Mermaid, the first card on here. This is kind of crazy to see because like Orcas have not really been a top deck for too long, but I kind of feel like Mermaid is that choke point, that integral piece that really holds all the deck together, allows the combo to go so, I don't know, to flow so effortlessly. Take out this and you really hurt a lot of what the deck can do. So I'm totally down for this. I just think like there are decks that have like one card combos, but the card that can be abused literally by just putting any two monsters with different names on the field, that's a little bit too generic. It allows you to abuse too many things in the deck, and then Mermaid, and also with how generic they are, can be abused in any deck. So it's like it's taking away originality from other decks. It's abusing engines from other decks that really make no sense being abused in the deck. So yeah, I think this is fine. I think this will happen at some point here, especially summoning from deck is too good. Then we have Gendora X, the Dragon of Demolition. This is a card that a lot of people were screaming for a while just because it was a FTK card. It was like the piece that pretty much allowed that whatever that FTK was to happen, and finally we see it getting hit here. Yeah, it's good. This is good to see. It's not really much to say here. It's just FTK. FTK is around longer than it should have been, and I'm glad it's gone now. And we looked at some limited cards here. So we're going to start with Salamangreat Gazelle. Wow. Okay. That's pretty cool because it means a couple things. One, it's a consistency hit. You're not going to open Gazelle, Spinning, Gazelle, whatever. You still have Circle, so you're still playing 4 copies. You still have Circle, and if you play the Signet Mining, you're playing 7 copies of this still, so it's like, it's not that big. It doesn't hurt consistency in that sense too much, but I think what it really hurts is that, like, in your grind game, sort of, a lot of turns you end up adding Gazelle back off your Sunlight Wolf to load up for next turn as a follow-up play for next turn. If DD Crow is a thing, if somebody wants to Called by the Grave this, if whatever it is, if they get rid of this one card, it's your only copy. You will not be cycling through Gazelle again. You will not be getting that utility of dumping Rages, Roars, whatever you want to dump Falco to add back a card in Grave. None of that stuff. So I think that's where it truly hurts it. I think this is a fine hit. I think Gazelle 1 I think is fine. It's still a really good card. You're still going to see it consistently. It's a 7. You have 7 different copies of this essentially with your search cards, and I think it'll be fine. But I think it's a solid hit, a little more impactful than Lady Debug for as far as the deck goes. Then we look at some Thunder Dragon hits. So we're going to start with Thunder Dragon Colossus and Thunder Dragonhawk. Dragonhawk is interesting to me. As far as I could tell, at least in the TCG, maybe it's different in the OCG. As far as I could tell, Thunder Dragonhawk has been being played at 1 for a little bit, and maybe that's because that's the danger build, and maybe in the OCG without dangers they haven't been in, like they play it more. They play a bigger Thunder engine, but as far as here, a lot of the top players have been dropping Hawk to 1 for its utility, and like you search it, then you use it, and it's like good as a follow-up play, that kind of stuff. But I guess in the OCG it's used as more than just that, so I guess this is fine. I don't really know how much that does to the deck. Again, different format, no dangers, so that's like the main variant we see here. And Colossus is like the big one, right? Because a lot of decks, while they weren't playing, a lot of Thunder decks here weren't playing 3 Colossus anymore. They were still playing 2, because if they out the first one, you can still make the second one, and then late in the duel, locking them out of searching can literally make it so they just can't play. But this kind of the same thing with Gazelle. If you're able to out this one Colossus, they don't go back into another Colossus as a follow-up play. It's still a really strong disruption to be able to set up going first. That won't change, but it does change how easily they're able to just like cycle through a Colossus every single turn and make it really hard, especially for the decks that do search, pretty repeatedly. So I think this is good. I think this is solid hits here. I like these, not crippling, but I think hurting a little bit. Lady Debug. So we had Debug. We already have Debug at 1. I think this might be sort of like a mini hit towards the Code Talker deck if they worry about the generic Cybers deck like getting a little too good. This is like one of the best starter cards. It's probably a 1-card combo, honestly. I don't really know exactly the combos of the deck. But based on how that deck works, this is probably like a 2-card combo or something, or a 1-card combo. So it's a little hit to Salaman, great consistency. It's a little hit to Code Talkers and generic Cyber stuff in general, keeping them from getting a little too good, especially if they plan on making other Cybers archetypes, stuff from like the anime. I made a video like a couple weeks ago talking about like 7 different archetypes in Reigns that will almost assuredly be made into like decks at one point in the TCG. They're like all Cybers, so like I guess hitting Lady Debug it makes sense, right? So that's pretty cool. And then Metaverse down to 1. That's also pretty interesting, just for the fact that like you wonder like what it really hits. It allows decks to tech Mystic Mine less consistently, because like this card is a lot better than drawing Mystic Mine because you want to activate Mystic Mine on your opponent's turn. Like once they have put more monsters on field than you have, then you can shotgun the Mystic Mine. It'll lock them out of their effects, and then they're kind of just shit out of luck from there. So this card, I think it's fine. It's like super generic. We already see that Terraforming's at 1 in the OCG, and I think this is like pseudo terraforming, but it's quick effect, so depending on the field spell, it's better. I think it's fine at 1. Honestly, I wouldn't be mad if we had both of them at 1 as well. I think it would be totally fine. But yeah, just not letting pure Mystic Mine be a thing, this is huge for consistency with that deck, and also, like I said, not letting decks like tech in Mystic Mine as easily by just playing like 3 of these. It hurts sub-tears. This is like the first sub-tear hit, because I think for a while now, a lot of sub-tear lists have been playing like 1 Necro Valley with like 3 of these, maybe even teching in Mystic Mine, so that like on the fly they could do that. If they need to set up for next turn, they could activate a city straight from deck and then search a Guru for next turn, search a Fiendus if you didn't have one, in your hand for negation. So it had a lot of utility. So putting it down to 1, I think is pretty good. Then we'll move to the semi-limited. So a lot of people don't like the semi-limited list, but it's here. So we'll start with ABC Dragon Buster. Was this at 1 before? I want to say this was at 1 before in the OCG, and ABCs were just not able to grind at all with just 1. They needed that second one to like make 1, use the effect to dodge, and then next turn go back into another one at least. I think that's what you at least needed. So I think this is fine at 2. Because I believe it was at 1. I'm not too caught up on the OCG ban list at all times, but if it was at 1, it goes to 2. This is fine. It honestly could be at 3. I mean, we have it at 3, and the deck is like it's a cool rogue option, but that's about it. But yeah, that's cool. That's cool to see. Spiral Quick Fix is a really interesting one. That's a huge part of the Tier 0 deck that was Spirals at the beginning of, or at the end of 2017, early 2018. So this is interesting to see coming at 2. Definitely helping the consistency of Spirals. We'll see if this really is enough to let Spirals do anything. I mean, we've seen in the TCG, actually rather recently, Spirals being able to top a little bit. So this is interesting. We'll see how much that affects them. Dark Arm Dragon going to 2. So I don't know if he was banned or at 1 like us, but I don't think it'll be too impactful. I mean, it's super easy to get to Dark's Engrave, but like he destroys, he targets, it's multiple times per turn, but it's like not crazy strong compared to nowadays. I mean, like Raigeki, like you don't have to worry about banishing your stuff. You just activate it. Like it's solid. It's fine. It's a good card, but I don't think it'll be that impactful. Dark Greffer going to 2. Now, I think he was at 1, just like for us, or maybe he was at 3. I can't remember what he was at. But hitting consistency, we have him at 1 because we love to abuse our combo decks. So he goes down to 1. If he was at 3, this is good. If he was at 1 and went to 2, I'm kind of like, weird. Because that just helps abuse combo decks. But, he should be on the list in some way, shape, or form because he's so good, man. Dino Wrestler Pankratops. This is a really interesting one here. I would think they'd want to keep it's only at 2, so it's like not a huge deal. Most people will still be playing 2 of them in their side deck. But I thought it was one of those cards that was just like really good, but not inherently broken to the point where it's like insane. Like this is a going first. This is like a go first and win time for Yu-Gi-Oh! So I thought that like Pankratops was a really cool card. Really just being like a one card that could help bait out 2 things from your opponent, like absorb 2 impacts from your opponent, where otherwise like it wouldn't. So or otherwise you are just playing into a going second board. It's really hard. I thought it was a really good generic card in that sense for side decks or just going second builds in general. I think he's cool. I think 2 isn't that impactful. Maybe he was just being a little too overplayed, and they were just worried that he would just be a side deck staple forever at 3, and nobody would ever play less. So I think putting him at 2 is like he's not broken. So we're not going to put him at 0 so that nobody can play him because he's not that broken. We're going to put him at 2 so that to help push creativity in this inside deck building. But that's fine. Pankratops. TG Hyper Librarian, that's like a synchro combo card, sort of. And we'll see Cyberstein going to 2. That's pretty interesting as well. I don't think either of these will really do anything. Cyberstein takes 1 hand trap and you're dead. And TG Hyper Librarian, I don't know if it was at 1 before or 3. But we've seen it at 3, and since the synchro days, like it hasn't been nearly as impactful. With links, like it makes it so much harder for this card to be useful, having to set up the zones for it first before really going into him. But it's still cool to see. TGs kind of need the help, so I'm not really mad about that. We see Trishula going to 2. Not that I think it really matters. If you're playing Trishula in your extra deck, you're playing it at 1 probably. So I don't really know why we have 2 here. Whatever. We also see Necros Cycle. That's a cool card to see. Helping Necros get that much closer to being fully off the ban list. Or for all I know, well, no, semi-loaded. A little closer. Cool to see. Mystic Mind going to 2. This is really interesting. Why 2? Like if you're going to hit it either down to 1 or to 0. Down to 1 so that like the consistency of being able to get this out is like severely crippled. Or just ban it because the card is wrong. They did hit Metaverse, so like that also hurts the consistency. But like, come on, man! Like, I don't know if semi-limiting is enough. Elmatiro Stratos getting completely unlimited, which is awesome to see. Hero players rejoice. Dynamite Knight, the True Draco fighter, going to 3. That's wild. True Draco players here would go nuts if that happened. They'd probably drop Maiden, like straight up, if they did. We got Totally Awesome going to 3. That's awesome to see. Like they saw like the difference of it being at 2 or 3 is very minimal, so they were like, why not put it at 3? Spellbook of Knowledge. I didn't even know they didn't have this at 3, but totally fine. Solemn Judgment was at 2, I believe, before. Now it's at 3. They're getting closer and closer to just literally having all 9 Solemns. I think all they're waiting on is Strike to go to 3, I think, and then Ceasefire here. Yeah, Ceasefire was much more powerful before, not quite as strong now. Totally fine to come off the list. But as you can see, like the OCG ban lists have been like huge lately, like every time. Just so many changes. A good amount of cards coming off the list, a good amount of cards, a couple cards getting banned, a couple cards getting semi-limited, limited, all that stuff. That's crazy. So they get like big changes. I'm really curious to see where their format ends up with all the main decks getting hit like this. You see like Orcus, Sally's, and Thunder Dragon. No striker hits here, which is interesting because they had been falling a little bit back behind a couple of these decks, but now strikers might be back to the best deck with all these decks getting hit like this. So we'll see about that. But at least for now, guys, that's pretty much it. Just want to do a quick update on this, giving you some ideas on what we might be looking at, what kind of ban list we might be looking at as the WCQ season wraps up for us in the TCG. But I don't want to spend too much more time here, but thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more stuff from me in the future, go and subscribe to the channel as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.